LOL. Alright. So I guess I guess that means I know I'm live. Alright. Yeah, I am live. Okay. Yeah. Alright. Weird. Okay. Alright, guys. What's up? Hello, everybody. So um, I really just, here, let me just minimize that. I really just wanted to get on and go live and be super candid about something. And really just wanted to get my thoughts across on something and wanted to do it live instead of recording a video because I feel like that's more authentic. So if I slip up, that's, unfortunate. Channel URL required. Um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, all right. That's okay. Uh, all right. Let me reload this. That's not the. That's not the. Jeez. Yeah, no, wow. I don't know. No. Okay. Um, let's see. So I have that. I have that. Um, oh man. Let me send people. I don't understand kick yet. I don't understand kick yet. Almost ready, guys. But no, this is actually really important. Okay. That's okay because I can just direct people to the in the description. Um all right. So, this whole Nickmercs stuff. I read a lot of drama behind the scenes. I don't chat really at all about drama. I'll throw my 2 cents in on stuff that I'm very passionate about, but even then I try my best. I'm sure I have, a couple tweets out there that aren't in the best fashion, but there are some things that just really get to me that I'm like, I need to speak up for this, even if it's just for the fact that I know I stood up for it, you know what I mean? Even if nobody sees this video, I just feel like a better human because who knows? But here's where. So, Nickmercs, right? I need I'm going to Twitter so I can find what he said specifically, like the tweet, because I don't know if it's um, um, I really want to get this right because oh, he tweeted how he tweeted they should leave little children alone. That's the real issue. And this was, I believe, a comment under a video of a really scary and intense riot outside of a school of people who are, pro LGBTQIA and anti LGBTQIA. That's what I believe, and that's what I'm going off of now. With that being said, I remember I kind of watched his response, and it's totally valid what he said, that he's not going to take his opinion back, which is very understandable and valid, and stood by what he said, and yeah, believes that parents should be teaching their kids these sorts of things. However, here's the thing that bothers me with that, because I've seen a lot in the comments be like, you know, back him up or say similar stuff. And it's like, so there's so many aspects about this, but the first one that really got me wanting to say something, and I was going to tweet, but it's just way too much, is I don't understand why people are so fearful of implementing like pro LGBTQIA plus or sexuality, etc., classes in schools with kids. I don't get where that comes from. Not where it comes from. I do know where the history where like it's coming from, but I think also there's something to be said, like, do we want to continue the shitty rules and shitty ways we've done it in the past? Do we want to continue that? In the past, we haven't had those classes. Why are we still fighting for them not to be implemented now? The reason why I feel like Nickmercs, what he says or what he said is so harmful, and he's not the only one who has this opinion, right? Like, there's a bunch of people with this. It's just Nickmercs is, an influencer, and so people, it's more public. It feels so much like erasing sexuality or erasing the LGBTQIA plus community, and I'll explain why. If you're so fearful of implementing it into a school and that, oh, parents should teach that, so you it feels like they don't feel like they don't want their kids to learn about it at a young age. They don't, because they think it'll influence them one way or another. And it's like, even let's go with that silly thought. Okay, a kid goes into a class, learns about different ways of love and loving people, and why does it matter either way? Like, it's humans, no matter what, are so beautiful, literally no matter what. No one's going to walk into a class, especially if it's, a class that's made in a really positive, helpful manner. Like, it's wild to me but we learn about Black history, but we want to keep this specific subject. I don't know if I should have said that or equate them, to be honest. I don't. But my point is that it's so harmful because the fear of that for me is like then all the parents are teaching their kids individually their own beliefs and thoughts when there is just a universal truth, and that universal truth is that people in the LGBTQIA plus community exist. Sexuality exists. It's just the truth. People will be born gay, people will be born trans, people will be born asexual, people will be born with so many different expressions. So when they're kids is the time we should really be helping them, teaching them, um, supporting them, because when we don't, like the mental health aspect, there's so many domino effects from that. It's so harmful. It's lack of representation. I mean, personally, I'm extremely gay. I'm coming to that realization. And to be honest, the reason why I personally have trouble with really saying, oh, I am gay or I'm a lesbian, etc., is because of how much heterosexuality was implanted into my brain. It's like, it's really hard to combat that when I just know, okay, this is what I feel, this is how I love. But maybe I could be attracted to a man. It's just like, if I wish I would have had a class like this that would have explained this so that way when I'm navigating, it wasn't just doing it one way. Because the way of, for me, just, dating guys growing up was not a great experience. I didn't feel anything. But with that, I felt so isolated, so alienated, because it's like, why are all of these other girls going on dates and they're absolutely in love with, in love with these people, etc., etc. And it is wild to me. It's actually very wild to me. Um, be, because all it is representation, lacking representation. And the scary part is it really feels like people who have that notion of, oh, I want, even if it's not sexuality, even if it's other things, I want to be the one to teach my kid, which means you think the teachers are going to teach wrong, right? And that you want to teach them correctly. What's the correct way? Erasing that? Or talking to them about it once and then not saying it again? Like, there's reasons for these classes teaching history. We don't need to be stuck in the old ways. We don't need to. In the past, there weren't classes like this. Do we still continue with that? Do we still want to continue erasing different expressions of humans? Because that's bonkers. It's actually bonkers to me. Because what would Nickmercs be, teaching his child? What would another parent be teaching their child behind closed doors? Yes, maybe I trust that Nickmercs is a fine guy, and I'm sure he really, didn't want to hurt anyone, and he truly is, I believe that. I believe that, and I heard that in, his statement. But I don't think it's hard because it just feels like it's continuing more homophobia, continuing more transphobia. Because it's like, what do you truly think the harm to your child would be for a class on the LGBTQIA plus community or sexuality, or I'm not sure. I'm not educated enough. But to implement that in schools early on, what is the harm? Because we already know those classes, somebody telling you about these different types of way of loving and relationships, that's not going to turn your kid one way or the other. That's just a fact. It's not going to. So if it's not going to, then why are we so scared of the class being implemented? I mean, truly think about that. I trust Nick might teach his kid a beautiful lesson. I do not trust other parents behind closed doors will teach their kid a beautiful lesson. And that's the point. We can't just trust parents to teach our kids everything, especially when it comes to certain things like this, because it's just, there's so many differing opinions and thoughts. And the truth is, it's just love. You can love anyone, everyone, whoever you want. They're beautiful expressions of everyone. And it's don't get me wrong, it's beyond difficult and beyond alienating and beyond harmful to, not harmful, but it's awful to see the treatment of people part of the LGBTQI plus community. And yes, being a part of the community subjects you to hatred and bigotry and ignorance. And yes, that's true, but why not help our kids through that? Why not teach a better way? Why not teach, hey, you can love whoever you want. If you have feelings for a girl, if you have feelings for a guy, if you have feelings for someone who's non-binary, if you don't have feelings for anyone and don't want to do any of it, that's all okay. There's so many different ways. There's not just, the straight way. And again, from my personal experience, since I am gay, I would have loved that representation, that class growing up. The more I hear about it, the more I watch like different things like this and watch the drama, man, would that have been so helpful for me, because again, like I mentioned before, I still have this thing in my head. Good morning, Asia. How are you doing? I still have this thing in my head that maybe I could be attracted to a guy, but I know that's 100% only because that's a relationship that was instilled with me. I was born, my sex was female. I went on and I identify as a woman, and and it's just, no matter who you are, regardless of that, the fact that it's like, okay, man, woman, there's so much more representation now, so much more love. But that idea of like a man and a woman, I mean, that completely also leaves out non-binary people. So like, I think I think it's a harmful way of going about things in general. I think anyone who kind of has this idea, oh, I want to teach my kids behind closed doors, that no. Like, I think that's very harmful. And I think we really do need to implement an LGBTQIA plus community, sexuality, something along those lines, a class early on, because then if a kid is confused, hurting, not feeling heard, they'll have that class. That class is not going to be like trying to force agenda. I mean, I can see how that would be a fear, but if done right, it would literally just teach about different sexuality types. You can love this person, you can love this person, you can be this. If you don't feel comfortable in your body, there's options. If you, etc., etc. And then that class could also give you resources. It could give counseling. It could do all of that. Or you could add on to that idea and add that stuff into it, so that way it is more balanced and but are we just going to trust that people are going to raise their kids with with this beautiful open heart of love and explaining all of these beautiful different types of expression? I don't believe the world is there. I mean, look where the world is. Look at how much everything is just going up in flames. How much are you streaming on OBS? I am. I agree with you as well, right? It's just um it's really, really, really sad because again, our world is going up in flames, pandemics, I mean, storms. I mean, the world is getting completely shit on from every angle. Weather, I mean, politics, I mean, left, right, no matter what you look at. I mean, I can name so many things, right? It's scary, the world we live in. The news is terrifying. The world, the earth, the life that we live right now, the timeline we're in right now is really hard. But why then do we want to continue things that made, like, things in the past and things now? Why don't we move into a place of more change, of more love? Like, what is stopping people from really just accepting that there's all different types of life and all different types of love? Because people were taught previously, that, oh, this is how you do it. Or a religion taught you this is how. It's bonkers because, as we can see, especially when it goes to the religion side of things, there's so many different religions. There's no one true religion. So then when you follow one true religion and then say, "Oh, this is this," well that completely goes out the window because that doesn't make any sense. So you're going to follow one but then disregard the other religions, but we accept that there's multiple. You know what? See how this starts to get confusing? We really, like, the world needs to go into a place of change. Like, I will say this again and again. I understand Nickmercs. I understand his point. I understand his view. I understand that he himself probably is a wonderful person and will teach his kid the positive ways of life and positive ways of expressing that. I don't doubt that. I truly don't. I doubt the world just because he might teach it. What about the other parents who are extremely still homophobic or just not accepting or don't believe, like, people who are, I mean, even people who are bisexual, people like that, eraser, or like, people who are bi are still just erased completely because they're like, well, it's like, truly, what do we want to be teaching our kids? Do we want to teach our kids love? Or do we want to teach our kids specific parameters on how to live life? No. We want to teach them how to succeed in this world. We want to teach them that any way that you grow up and start to express yourself, whether that's personality, love, beliefs, however you naturally start to grow up, that needs to be supported by parents. Oh, you love this and are creative, you want to be an artist, I'm going to support you in that. I'm not going to shove down your throat, you need to go to school, you need, because that's a whole nother point. It really is, but it's hard because there is this discrepancy between what teachers teach in the school and what parents teach at home, and there's such, like, a divide, and that's a problem. Like, kids need to be going to school to learn, but to learn the realities of the world, to learn what's going on, to learn the true stuff, learn the true history. Parents come from their own thoughts, their own beliefs, their own traumas, their own upbringing, their own past. And you have to, it's hard to then navigate that, right? And then raise a kid without implementing those thoughts, beliefs, trauma, etc. on the kid. But, like, we can raise kids now. We can seriously raise kids now in such a more beautiful fashion, like, expressing that, love is in so many different facets, that you can have so many different interests, and it's okay if it's not in line with like wanting to be a freaking accountant, or maybe you want to take a year off of school and try and draw and make that take off. Hell yeah. I understand that on top of this comes from my own, privilege of having access to maybe to like money and different things. And I know there are just different communities that, and different families that that's not doable. And that's a whole nother freaking can of worms, as those people should be supported so they can support their kids. But I digress. I think it's hard too because I feel like my expression of my creativity or my expression of myself was it was hard. I still don't fully know who I am, but that's also because like the world seems so set on one path. On like one on the, like we're still connected to the history of the past. Like we've seen how many people are killed, murdered, shot to death. I mean, literally, look at these children going into schools and shooting them up. Like, truly, where do we think that comes from? Why? The mental illness. I mean, there's so much with this, but I think my ultimate point is just it's not helpful to keep going with these ways of thought and maybe implementing it into a school. I don't know what the right call is. I don't know how to actually implement change. I don't know the best option because I know everyone has their different viewpoints. I know everyone has their different thoughts, and that's completely valid, and own opinions, and that's valid, and that's real. So I don't know how any of this would be able to be implemented. I truly don't. I think right now it also can be implemented personally because there are so many people who are so against it still, and I think that's the problem. We're trying to implement it into people who are still ignorant. So that is why we're having riots. If we were trying to implement these things and people cared about humans and cared about, the well-being, there are not going to be these fights and these riots. Because people will want that to be taught, will have a belief that that is so important to be taught. And this literally just has to come down with love and loving yourself and loving others and all of that. It really comes down to it. And it's so sad, I think, just to notice the world. And this specific, thing with the LGBTQIA plus community. I mean, there's so many other things in history that we're just continuing to this day that we just know aren't good. But instead of changing it and being, you know, an influence in a positive way, an influence that says, you know, yes, this is what's happening in the world, but hey, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it the way that I believe is true. And I'm, you know, I really, really, really feel for every human, honestly. I really do. I truly do feel for, like, every human out there. And even, I will say this too, even the people, the parents who have the viewpoint of, I want to teach my kids this, or it shouldn't be in schools, this should be a parent's thing that's taught, that's valid. And I also know that a lot of that comes from pain and their own trauma. And also, not only that, but just their own upbringing of what beliefs were instilled into them. So then they're going to teach their kids. I mean, it's so much with like generational things that carry on. And that's so real. That's hard to break out of. That's hard to even notice to, because you have to notice it to then break out of it. It's hard to even freaking notice it. So I really feel for the world and for people, because it is hard to make these changes, to make these steps and movements. But not but, I mean, that's just the truth. That's the world we live in today. So I do, with that being said, it's also important for that to be the case and for people to still rise against it, to still stand up against it, and not continue the old ways. I mean, that's kind of breaking, like, trauma that's happened for generations in your family. It's saying, hey, I'm not going to do the same things. I'm going to try and do it, in a different way, a healthier way, a more positive way. And that's what I want to be able to do. And also, if I ever really get into content creation or whatever I do, as far as, you know, creatively what I do, I I really want to make it clear where I stand on these things, so that way nobody is confused. I don't want anyone to think that, I come from any place of malintent or etc. etc. Like, I also want my audience and anyone who joins, and if I stream, or anyone who follows me in my future endeavors, I never want someone to follow me thinking that, I could be hateful towards this or not. I don't mind saying stuff that's controversial. I really don't, because at the end of the day, again, I'm a small person. This video easily won't get to anyone. And I'm still making it because it's still important. This energy to put out is still important, because it's important that we start to make freaking change. It's not helpful. Like, look at, especially in like schools and with kids, look at the look at the hell that is going on right now with kids and schools. And we're worried about implementing a class on, the LGBTQI plus community. Are you, like, there's other priorities. And also, it's just, again, we really need to break out of this, like, I'm going to continue trauma from other generations. I'm going to continue this into the next, No. Why are we teaching them about a world that is broken? Truly. Why are we teaching our kids about a world that is broken? Why don't we, say, hey, the world is this way. It's going to be hard for you. I'm going to help you navigate the world. I'm going to help you with whatever kind of you want to do. Obviously, you start implementing kids in school. You start, right? But as they grow up, as they develop their brain, you slowly implement this stuff. You slowly, but not in the way that saying, you have to follow this path, you have to follow this religion, you have to follow, you have to have. No, there is no have to. There is no have to. And to be honest, I'm going to go into a different thing, because this might explain how kind of connected to I am about this idea, is because I'm becoming very spiritual. And what I'm coming to find out is, the more you connect to spirit, soul, energy, whatever you want to, however you define it, and whatever way you define it is completely valid as well. Not that you need me to tell you you're valid or not. I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. Spirituality was part of it. Oh yeah, no, the more I've connected to spirit, soul, the more I have opened my heart, but not only that, more I've opened my mind. And we can all truly create the life we want. That is available to us. It is. It's in small steps. It's but when you connect with soul, spirit, when you connect with that higher power, you gain power that's beyond anything on here that we've seen. And that's the truth. So if we were to teach instead, oh, we have to do it this way, why not be like, let's teach our kids how to connect and be in tune with themselves, and once they are and they're letting us know what they want to do or where they're going or their interests, that we help support them. And I don't know everything perfectly. I don't. The overall message here is we don't need to keep with the old ways. We don't need to keep with the old trauma. We don't need to keep with the old homophobia, old racism, old transphobia, old etc. Like, seriously, we don't. We don't. It's so much more helpful to just accept these are true. Accept people, they're different people from different walks of life. Just accept it and help support, whether you fully understand it or not. The point isn't so you fully understand it. The point is to support the kids. The point is the children. Truly the children. But not in the way that and it's hard. Because what else do you kind of it's hard to break that bond, that trauma, that kind of generational stuff. I mean, especially with the world. I mean, our history, the thousands of years of hatred and just, I mean, so that's hard to move away from because there's so many people still stuck to it. But I feel like, I guess, influencers, and I think why I kind of responded to Nickmercs specifically is because he is an influencer. He is. Whether he and being an influencer isn't just, oh, I'm popular and have a big audience. No, an influencer is somebody, I don't know, influences the audience, right? I mean, that's what it builds up to once you get a fan base. But even that, it's like, I feel like being an influencer, I feel like it's so much better to be called a content creator because the idea shouldn't be to like sway or influence your fan base one way or the other. It should just be to share your own. It's hard because that's what Nick is doing. He's sharing his own, belief, and that's valid. I guess it's just hard because I think people just don't know how harmful some of these continued beliefs are, these continued behaviors and actions are. People don't realize that, yes, you support and are an ally, but there's some disconnect with being an ally and then, writing a statement like that because nobody who's an ally would have written what Nickmercs said. A true ally. Nobody is going to look at that and then be like, like, we've got to take ourselves, we have to put accountability on us as well to look ourselves in the mirror and be like, wow, like, in these places I'm a fucking shithead. Like, but work to move past it, work to be better. Especially, like, if you want to be a content creator and with a big audience, these things, these controversial topics, you need to be ready for. Like, these need to be something that you could be brought up. You need to think about, am I going to share these things or not? Like, how do I. And it's hard because how do I even classify what's harmful and what's not harmful? Because then again, that's from my perspective and my opinion. So all of this gets really confusing and convoluted when you start getting into the intricacies. I think it's just there is a truth that love comes in all shapes and sizes, essentially. That's just a truth. Nobody is turned a certain way. That's just the truth. So, therefore, I believe it should be taught in schools because, again, representation matters. I mean, let's just think about this is a different thing, but this has to do more with race. But just even look at The Little Mermaid. Look at how much controversy. Disney is rooted in controversy regardless. We know they're not the most caring company. But look at how many people jumped down the throats of everyone because they were worried about the color of people's skin. Like, seriously? We're casting these people to see if they can act the part. They're not going, if they have the personality of the part. Yes, if they have the feeling, like, that's what was prioritized. It's not, oh, let us all get auditions from this specific, and it's bonkers because it's just like, we're really worried about that. And then there's the whole notion of, oh gosh, people are shoving the agenda down our throats. Are you okay? You are worried about someone else's agenda being shoved down someone else's throat. Which means, though, like, the people who truly believe that, you know, some of this stuff is being like shoved into their system, they need to look at themselves and really think long and hard why that's their perspective. It's weird because people will be like, I'm an ally, but I don't like. It makes sense why there's so much people trying to support and represent because it's not supported and represented enough at all yet. There are major strides, but still really lacking. Like, it's the truth. And I think this is also in this whole thing. I think there's also something to say about um, how what I think being a content creator. Yes, I think it's completely valid to just state your own opinions, not try and say believe this one way or the other. These are just my thoughts. Kind of think for yourself in a way. That's so hard because what are the parents of those kids that are watching the influencers then doing? Are they monitoring the kids' intake of information or are they not? Because somebody could hear that and run with it. That's another thing, like it's not all on a content creator. It, there's so many ways. And if there was a class in schools that was implemented, your kid could come home, tell you all about it, and then the parts that you want to add into or kind of mention more about, feel like go for it. Like, no one's saying the parent can't then teach more or add on or say something, else to add on to the information. No one's, you know, and it wouldn't have to be something where it's like shoving it down your throat. It could just be, this is an example. This is the definition of bisexual. This is the definition of that sort of thing. It doesn't even have to be something. I mean, representation in all facets is so important. So important. There's not one way of this or that in anything. Any representation is important. And we just need to work to move away from these like generational trauma, generational history beliefs, generational one-way thinking, narrow path to follow. And again, I don't know everything. That's just my 2 cents on it. Those are my beliefs, those are my thoughts. I will end this with I completely understand where everyone comes from on this because I know how much it's rooted in past traumas and generational trauma and generational hate. And, I really do feel for the people who are still stuck in those ways because it's, that's hard. That's really hard. And I know it's not an easy fix. I know it's not this, that, the next thing. I know not all of my thoughts are probably correct. And again, like, this is my opinion. Take this information and, take it with a grain of salt. Take it as just other information on the internet. There is, this is just what I think, and it's just hard because I think the more I scroll through socials too, it's the more I see just harmful stuff happening to people, and um, yeah, it's hard. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to make this video, and I wanted to do it live because I felt like that was important because I don't want to feel like I'm hiding on Twitter behind my phone. This is who I am. This is me. Hi. Like, you can see my face. Um, and again, this could reach nobody, even if it reaches some people. I appreciate anyone if they got to this point. That's rad. Thank you. I love you. Um, you're awesome. You're beautiful. Um, I'm patting my cat. That's why I'm like doing this. But yeah, no, there's some things, right, that's just, it's rough. It's very rough. But, you know, I love you guys. We live in a really rough, hard, scary, terrifying world. And that's really the freaking conclusion. So with anything, it's so hard to navigate because it's just so much interlocked, so much, history and trauma that it's just we're still stuck in so many old ways and old beliefs and old ways of thinking that, it really is going to take time for things to really start to pick up and create change. But, you know, personally, I want to be part of that change. I want to be a front runner. I want to even just with being me, like I want to be representation for people. I want to show people and express to people that you're beautiful no matter what. And to stand firm like in your own feeling, like people the person knows their own stuff, their own feelings, thoughts, like yeah, I mean, that's kind of that. I think I'm going to end the stream and then I'm going to stream another thing because I've been wanting to do this and I'm already making content now. So, all right, that's it with that. I love you guys. Hi again. This is authentic me. I'm not hiding. I'm expressing my opinion. And if you don't agree with me, that's completely valid. Yeah, and I am steadfast in me, myself, and I. So, yeah. But I respect and understand and completely validate everyone else in their own opinions and beliefs and where they're at in life. I understand it. I do. But I love you guys. I love all of anyone and everyone. Um, but we can get through this. Us humans, us as a world, we can get through this. We can get to a point of representation and love. I believe it. It's just gonna take some time, but we'll get there.